everybody, Anthony Dodge Mile Train outside the Märklin Outsider here with another long video, a Meet the Fleet video. It's been maybe a year and a half, 2 years since I kind of did a little video to show what I have. And in the last year and a half or so, especially since retirement, I have picked up a lot of new locomotives. I've really added to the fleet here. And for the newcomers on this channel and for the other really 30 or 40 people that really follow this channel. You guys see these on my Friday live streams, but maybe some you see more than others, and I highlight some a lot more than others. So maybe you kind of get a full view of what I have. And I'm really grateful that in the last year and a half I've been able to almost double my locomotive stock. It's been a situation where life has allowed me to really upgrade what I have. And these are not all the locos I've owned. I have given away some and traded some away, but this is what I currently have. So I hope you enjoyed the video.
All right, let's start with my electrics. And my electrical locomotives are divided between Märklin on the top shelf and non-Märklin on the bottom shelf. So let's go to it. We start off right here in the front corner. We have a BR101, Class 101. The 101s are used for high-speed passenger service. The IC1s and the ECs, the Eurocity Expresses. This particular one is a favorite of mine because A, it's a great running locomotive, and I just love the design, the color on it. It's the white of the ICs, but it's got all this splash of color. And it was celebrating an exhibition at the Deutsche Bahn Museum in Nuremberg. There are several Deutsche Bahn museums, but the one in Nuremberg had a special thing called Design and Bahn, which was celebrating the artistic advertising and so forth on the locomotives over the years and where it's come from, where it's going. But that's a Class 101. And then the basic Class 101 is right here. And I'll be putting along the bottom here, I'll be putting the model numbers as we go along. But this is my standard base Class 101 locomotive in the Verkehrsrot, as it's called, Deutsche Bahn Red, as I often refer to it in English, but Traffic Red is the official name, Verkehrsrot. So that is a Class 101. I do have a third Class 101, which I will show you right here. And it's in its box because the front bogie is just mangled. I have tried to fix it, and I think I get it fixed. And it's been sitting around. I actually tried to fix it right after I came back from Germany and thought I finally did it, and then no. So you have not seen this running on my layout for well over a year because I've been too lazy to send it out and get it fixed. I need to send it out and see what's wrong with that bogie. And no, it's not a simple screw fell out. I have taken this thing apart and cannot figure out why that bogie won't stay in. I think something was welded into place and the weld gave way, so it needs to be redone. So continuing on, right here with electric, I have my Class 147. You do see this guy occasionally. It's not the strongest puller, but it's a good locomotive. This is a regional commuter locomotive. It is being brought in to replace the Class 146s. These have been coming in for a few years, but I think now they've just moved on to new ideas because the 147s are not in the way it was projected to be. They have not been phased in as much, but you just recognize them. The 147's got this sort of grill pattern along the side there. But that was one of the newest regional locomotives coming in, and they were replacing the workhorses, the 146s, which I'll show you in a second. But first, I need to move this 101 a bit. So here's the next electric locomotive. This is a Class 143. Now, the Class 143s were actually East German locomotives, if I understand my history. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will correct me down there, but these were East Germans, and I believe in East Germany they were called 243s because the East German nomenclature, 100s were diesel and 200s were electric. In West Germany and the modern Germany, it's the reverse. 100 is electric and 200 is diesel. So these were 243s, and they've been repurposed and resurfaced, and they're still seen in lots of places, especially in Eastern Germany. But you see them in the far west. We saw a couple of Class 143s when we were in Freiburg. It's a well-done locomotive, and it's one of my newer favorites, even if I think it's a bit boxy in style. It's one of my favorites because it's a strong puller. It can handle the incline. So a lot of times if you see me running my Regio double-deckers on the main loops where they'll go up the incline, this one will be pulling them because it's my best. Now, let's go to my oldest owned locomotive, and that's right here. And this guy was damaged by some workers when I had to have my basement weeping system completely redone. They dug up my basement and they nailed this guy. But this is my Class 146. It was bought in February of 2016, right after I got into the hobby. It's still a great runner. I don't run it as often as I should, just because all the newer ones get my attention and running, and I feel bad, but it's still a great locomotive. It is my old soldier. It is my, it's the one guy that's been through a lot, but he still runs strong, and he's my oldest guy. So I'm going to move him out of the way so that you can see behind him. This is my Class 182.1, which are usually seen in the Black Forest region and west and northwest of that, although you can see them in other places too. The 182.1s, which this is another one of my favorite Märklin locomotives. This is just a strong runner, and I just kind of dig it. I think it's a cool, I just love the windows here, silly stuff like that, you know. Otherwise, they all kind of have a same basic shape. But anyhow, very strong runner. But these are used for both freight and passenger service in very particular reasons. Like this one, the particular number, I understand, really only works in the Saarland area. It's never seen outside the Saarland. I have been told by friends in the Märklin and German world. All right, I'm going to put this guy back in place. All right. Right behind that is a special locomotive to me. This is my 187. The 187 is a freight hauler in Germany. They are used for freight. I believe it's medium freight loads. They can do some heavy loads, but I think they're really restricted to medium and light freight. I may have that backwards. It may be they're the heavy ones, but I think they're the lighter ones. I think the 185s are the older version and do more of the heavy work. But anyhow, the 187 is the first locomotive that broke my rule of it had to be a train or a locomotive we've ridden with. So this is the Class 187, but it's also special because Joyce bought it. It's not the first locomotive she bought me, but it's the first where she bought it and it broke the rule. But she bought it and gave it to me for my birthday. And then for Christmas, she got me a bunch of freight cars to go with it. So I had a freight train because she thought I needed a freight train on my layout. All right, we got one more up above here. And that's this guy right here. This is probably, in terms of looks, it's one of my favorites, but it's probably my least favorite Märklin locomotive. This is a Class 102. And it looks a little different because the rest of these are built by Siemens Corporation, and this one is built by Skoda. It's also known as the E-Class 109, but in Germany they gave it the 102 nomenclature. And you will see these. In fact, there's a couple of Czech versions that Märklin makes that I would really like and have just never talked myself into getting, including one celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Czech Republic, 1918 to 2018. But anyhow, the reason it's not my favorite, even though it's a really cool and nicely detailed loco, this was really on their budget range, and it is not a strong puller. It does not like my incline, and trying to get it to pull even 3 simple cars up the incline, it really does not like it. So you will see it now and then pulling some of my double-decker cars, the Doppelstockwagen, as we call them in German, Doppelstock, double floor, double level. But I don't run them a lot because I consider it a bit of a weak puller. But again, it was really sharp. And when I first got it, it seemed to be okay. And then it just weakened really quickly. All right. Now, I talked about the Class 146 here, this old guy, this 146-2, which really is the workhorse in the German commuter passenger service. I have two others I will get to, and then we'll get to this bottom area. All right, here are my last two Class 146s. The front one, that is a metronome Class 146-2. So in pretty much all ways, it's identical to the one that was up on the shelf. They are identical. Their motor, their works, everything is the same. This is also a Märklin. It came as part of a special set of cars, but it's identical. This is a Märklin 146-5, and it's a special loco, but let me talk first about its classification. When Germany went to an upgraded version of the IC, the Intercity Express, one of their high-speed trains, they had the single-decker cars that were pulled by the 101s. But the 101s, for whatever reason, they decided to run Class 146s to pull these double-deckers. The problem is the 146-2s did not have the braking system or the power system to handle it all. So the motors and everything inside were redesigned, and the braking system was redesigned to handle the higher speeds and the greater loads at that speed. And they were still, I believe, restricted to 5 cars. So you see a very consistent consist there of 5 cars. Yeah, these are used for the IC2s. And these were being phased out and replaced with Class 147-5s. But again, that hasn't happened as quickly. There are a few 147-5s out there. I've seen a couple. But you still see the 146-5s more. But this past trip to Germany, we were seeing more of the double control cabs. We saw quite a few IC2s with the double control cab configuration. So maybe the 147-5s are not going to work in. But yeah, this is special because this is the exact locomotive that pulled the exact trains that Joyce and I rode in 2017. It's the actual locomotive and cars. Well, it's not the actual. It's a model of the actual locomotive that, and the cars are the same numbered that Joyce and I rode from Bremen to, from Delmenhorst to Leipzig, and then we had to change over and get on a different IC2 from Leipzig to Dresden in 2017. All right, so I'm going to go back to the shelves and show you the last of the electricals. All right, I only have 5 non-Märklin electrical locomotives in the AC range. Obviously, I got British stuff I'll try to show. But here are my 5, and they're really divided into 2 groups. There are the Taurus, and I have 3 Taurus. There are 2 here. The other one is over there on the railjet. We'll do a close-up of that in a minute. But I have 2 Taurus. The one is the Beethoven Taurus, and this runs commuter traffic. It will pull Eurocities. It will pull railjet cars. It will pull. I've even seen it connected to German trains, although technically it's part of the Austrian Taurus system. The Germans have a few Taurus, but really, if you see a Taurus, odds are it's Austrian, and the Czech Republic uses quite a few of them as well for their railjets. But yeah, this is the Beethoven one. You guys see this one. This was made by Jägendorfer Collection. The only one I have by Jägendorfer Collection, and it's very cool, very detailed. Obviously, the livery on it is quite stunning. Well detailed, not a strong puller. Good runner, fast runner, but I never have it run the big outer loops because it can't handle the incline with cars. It's just always been a bit of a weak puller. Right behind it is the newest. I just bought him a couple of weeks ago, and this is a Taurus Class 1116. I believe this one is a 1016. This is an 1116. And this is a great locomotive. I like it a lot, and it's Roco. And then I have one other Roco Taurus. And if you're hearing the name Roco a lot, yeah, because if I don't buy Märklin, I tend to buy Roco. I try other companies, Jägendorfer Collection, but if I can't get it from Märklin, I tend to do Roco. And speaking of Roco, the other electric train I have, again, my non-Märklin stock is divided between Taurus and Vectrons. And the Vectrons here, class 193 electric Vectrons, the same company, TX Logistic and MRCE. Beautifully detailed. They're both Rocos. They came out at the same time. There was a funny bit where I talked myself into buying one, and then I couldn't decide between this one, and Joyce, in frustration with me, said, just buy them both. And I don't think she intended that I actually would do it, but I did. But so you can see this one, all in flames. Wir brennen für das, was wir tun. We're burning for what we do. And the other one is wir bringen die Kraft von 8,700 Pferden auf die Schiene. We're bringing the power of 8,700 horses to the rail. So it's an 8,700 horsepower train. And of course, you can see this one. The difference is the multi-pantograph, because this runs through many countries. This is cross-European, so it's got all the different pantographs for the different electrical systems. Much more detail in that. Not because it's a more expensive model than this one. They were exactly the same price. But it has to have all this extra on it because this is one of the multinational ones. And this is more of a regional Austria-Germany runner. So those are both Class 193 Vectrons. I have one other set of electric locomotives, and then my high-speed trains I'll show you for this section. All right, if you watch my channel, you know that one train that probably gets run more than anybody is my Austrian Railjet. But that is the locomotive. It's not stored up there because this is, it has the pin connector. So it, by advice of Roco, it should stay connected at all times. You shouldn't take these apart, put them together, take them apart. So that is my Austrian Railjet, probably my favorite looking locomotive. I hate to pick favorites, but it's, in terms of locomotives, this is my prettiest electric locomotive. That is my Taurus. And then I have two other electrical locomotives I still haven't shown you yet. All right, here I have another Taurus. And again, you can see the multinational Ford thing. This is a Pico. I haven't mentioned Pico in the electric world yet, but this is a Pico Railjet. It's Austrian. It's actually Austrian and built either in Austria or Germany, but it's done for the Czech Republic. It's my Czech Railjet by Pico. It is a good locomotive, but it is not my strongest runner. I'm going to move it back so I can show you the last electric locomotive. This is my Czech Class 371, and I bought this. It is from Acme, and I had never bought Acme, and I had heard negative things about Acme trains by a lot of the Märklin guys. But the problem is I needed a 371, and nobody was making one. Every now and then Pico releases a 371, but they don't release it in AC. And they haven't released one in AC in 8 or 9 years, and I haven't been able to track that one down. And so Acme released one, and I stupidly thought, it should be easy to convert it to AC. It was a DC locomotive. It'd be easy to convert it to 3-rail. No, it wasn't. But I finally had my friend Andrew Chevalier figured out a way. He did it. He put the pickups and everything on this car behind it because he couldn't fit them into the shell here. He just couldn't do it. So put in the wheel set, put in the wiring, but everything is wired into that guy. And but this runs, it runs beautifully. I love it. It has become one of my favorite locomotives just because of the story of getting it running on my layout. So that is the end of my electric locomotives. Now I have electrical multiple units, so I will show you a few of those. And we will start off with my high-speed collection, which you can see right here, my ICE 4, These are Germany's highest speed trains. My ICE4, my ICE3, which a few years ago I rode and got the fastest I've ever been on a train, although the railjet we rode to Vienna came close, but we recorded 275 kilometers an hour on an ICE3 a few years ago when we were running Hamburg to Berlin straight. But that's my IC4, and if you look carefully, you can kind of see the generations. IC4, ICE3, which is still my favorite. I love the IC4, although the IC4 is not the strongest pusher. The motor in it is not the... It's probably a high-quality motor, but when this thing goes in 8, well, I should say 9, 10, 11, and even 12-car consist, they did not factor some people trying to run it on inclines. It is not the best runner on an incline. The ICE3 is a beast. It handles everything. It is by far my best running locomotive of everything. Locomotive or, multiple unit, which I guess you would call this rail cars. It's by far the best runner of everybody. Here is my ICE2. You don't see it running much, but every now and then I break it out. This is a cobbled together Frankenstein. Very few of these cars actually fit the exact consist of the base model, but this is my ICE2. And if you can't tell the difference between ICE2 and ICE1, I'll show it to you. ICE2's one of the control cabs does have windows and seating. The original ICE1s right here, this is an ICE1. If you look down at the other end, there's no windows on either end. And that's really how you tell the difference. It's two powered ends. But that was my ICE1, which I got from Herb in British Columbia, Canada. I traded him my original and very first locomotive, my Märklin 37783 ICE3, because I got the upgraded 37788 model here, and I didn't need two ICE3s. I mean, I could have kept it, but I need an ICE1, and he made a deal for me, so I got the ICE1 here. So there's my high-speed fleet there. Now I have two other, quote, electrical multiple units, and you can see them right there. There is my Pico Class 440 in Nordwestbahn. That's electrical, and it is a great runner. I love this guy. Probably, well, I can't say favorite, but definitely considering the crap I went through to get it to work, and then it did work. And it runs beautifully now. It had a bogey issue, which we fixed, and it's an amazingly smooth runner. And then its partner, the upgraded 442, which is the first one where I installed my own decoder. And that's a beautiful runner as well. So that's the electrical. That is everything electrical on my layout. I did not go through and show all the cars that go with the trains, but that's it for electrical. Now to diesel. Here you see pretty much all my diesel locomotives. I'm running a theme for a live stream I'm actually going to be doing later today as I film this video, and decided to do a diesel special. So here are pretty much all my diesel locomotives. There's well, we'll just start in the front. We got a Märklin Class 218. This is probably the most recognizable 218. You guys see this running quite a bit. It pulls my Intercity 1. Those are Intercity 1 cars right there, in case you didn't know. Intercity 2 are double-deckers. But this is the famous Cottbus nickname edition of the 218. This was repainted or recovered in the special livery. One side is Märklin, one side is Pico, as part of a special fundraising event. The two companies donated money and ran this loco to raise money for the A.W. Cottbus, one of their charities. So they did that. But that is my Class 218, which is the workhorse diesel. They do passenger, they do freight. You see them in tandems. Somebody even filmed recently, 3 of them together. I had never seen that even in somebody's video, but so you'll see them in tandem quite a bit. Joyce and I see them in tandem all the time with the red and the ocean blue pulling Swiss. But anyhow, so that is probably, it's definitely my best running diesel locomotive. It is a workhorse and it runs great. It's fantastic. Now over here behind it, we have the Class 220, the BR220 in the old German 1970s, early 80s livery, the ocean blue and beige as it's called. This was the first locomotive I bought in Germany, and it's by ESU, the guys that make the ECOS control system and the Lock Sound decoders and Lock Pilot, all that. And they actually designed the first Märklin Central Station control system. But anyhow, that is the Class 220. Apparently it's a bit of a classic in Germany. But either way, it's the first locomotive I bought on my trip to Germany because the gentleman that sold it to me thought it was the ESU 218, which I was looking for, and wires got crossed, but I kept it. Speaking of the 218 in the ocean blue and beige livery, here is a Märklin one I found at a shop in Vienna and was quite happy, and I bought it. And this has been a great runner. Very pleased with it. It is a Märklin, and it's an older Märklin. I believe this is a 2012, 2013 model. Found it in a shop, had not been run. It was not used. So it was old new stock or new old stock. But it's proven to be a great runner. A little bit of a tune-up. Make sure everything inside and out was ready to go, and it's ready to go. Now, anybody who follows my channel knows this guy's been giving me fits. This is a Roco 218. And it's one of the 218s I really wanted, not necessarily by Roco, but I wanted one in the red because Joyce and I were seeing these in tandem, these two right here, the red and the ocean blue and beige in tandem. The red one in front, the ocean blue and beige behind, pulling Swiss and Austrian ECs between Kempten and Switzerland. And elsewhere, obviously, but we just kept seeing them. Like the one video I have of them was in a little place called Biesenheim, somewhere in the middle of nowhere in western Bavaria, where we waited to catch a train. But anyhow, it has proven to be not a great runner. It's running better, but it's still very weak. So it's the first time I've had a Roco that disappointed me. Speaking of Roco, there is a pretty good Class 218 from Roco. So clearly it's just this guy, because these all came out the same year, just different designs on the shells, as you can tell by the stacks on top. This one's got them together in the V wedge, and this one's got them split a little bit more. All right, so that is the blue freight hauler, because the 218s will haul freight or passenger service, usually ICs and ECs, although this one today is pulling an end fare care traffic. I'm not running prototypicals. But this is, I think it's sharp. It's actually the first 218 I ever bought. No, I lie. This was the first 218 I ever bought. This was the second one. But it's very sharp, and I've got pull and freight, because that's what I usually see it. Although I've seen this, the company that has this livery, Press, actually it's a bigger name, but they just put Press on the logo. They sublet these back to Deutsche Bahn. So sometimes you'll see, and I've got the stickers to do it, you'll see little Deutsche Bahn logos on the side there, and you will see them pulling cars like this, especially in northern Germany. That's where I've seen a lot of these, is in northern Germany. But that doesn't mean that's where they're restricted to. That's just where I have seen them. So that's my 4 218s plus a 220. And then in the back here is a Brava. First time you've heard me mention the name Brava. That is a Brava 245, which is used usually to pull Regio double-deckers, the Durchstockwagen. That is exclusively what I've seen them doing in Eastern Germany and Northern Germany. I have seen 245s occasionally in Bavaria, but for the most part, I tend to see them more in the north. And again, that's just, I'm in the north a lot more. So if I say I see something more in the north, you got to take that with a grain of salt. It's because I tend to be in the north more. In fact, our last trip was the first time Joyce and I spent almost exclusive time in the south. We went up to Hamburg, and then everything was Freiburg and south. We went to Freiburg, and then we were in Bamberg and Salzburg and Vienna in Austria. All right, now I do have 2 diesel multiple units, and so right back here you see my Nordwestbahn. That is the 3rd locomotive or model I ever bought. I got my ICE 3, which I no longer have, and then I bought the 146-2 electric unit, and then I bought this Nordwestbahn. And Joyce and I have ridden Nordwestbahn trains like this many times, except it should be in a tandem of 3. I should have 3 of these. I need 2 dummy units, but these, when you find them online, are now, they're very popular, very expensive. And this is another one. It's, again, I bought it in March or April of 2016, and it's still a great runner. It runs beautifully. It lights up nicely. It's just a really sharp running loco. Okay, here is another diesel multiple unit, although really there's only one, so it's hard to call multiple, but they run in tandems. I've seen these in as few as 2 and as many as 4. But this is a Locos Class 650. BR650, Deutsche Regiobahn Red, obviously commuter traffic. One of my few trains that actually has people on it. You might be able to see there's some people sitting in there. And then next to it is another, and I didn't mention on the other one, I talked about the Nordwestbahn. This is a class 648, as is that Nordwestbahn over there. These are class 648, also known as Lint Class 41, but official nomenclature is 648, but the Lint Class 41. And these were workhorses. They've been phased out. New stuff is coming in, but it's identical to that Nordwestbahn one. I don't think they changed anything other than the livery on. I think it's the same mold and all that. But again, a fantastic runner. The decoder in this one is probably slightly better than that one. A few more functions because this is a newer model. That's an older one. I think that came out in 2014, and I was able to get one in 2016. And this one came out in 2020, 2021, maybe 2019. I forget. Okay, I did forget one diesel locomotive, so I'm going to have to do the addendum here. I totally forgot this guy up here. This is my Hercules Class 223 diesel locomotive run by the Alex. And this is a good model. This is a Pico. It came from a Pico starter set. I am having a little bit of trouble where I think it's pickup shoe, the little ski that runs along the third rail in the track, seems to be rubbing hard, pushing hard. It may just need replaced. Maybe the spring it's on has lost a little buoyancy and it just hangs too low. But it just rubs loud. It still runs fairly well. It can't handle the incline anymore. It used to, but now it doesn't. But it does. I think it's all related to the axle or shoe issue. It just might need tightened up. I've tried to tighten it up a bit, and while I did see some improvement, I still think it's just the shoe that's the issue. So that is my diesel stock. So now on to steam. All right, now I know most model train guys probably are huge into steam, and UK guys really love their diesels. But here are my 3 primary steamers. 2 of them are, I don't want to say basically the same, but they're basically the same. This is my class 18.5. This is a class 18.5 steam locomotive, and I'm sorry you're getting the reflection. This is an extremely nice but fragile locomotive. You'll see when I run my steamers, the cars that came with it are absolutely high-end beautiful. This was a very expensive set that I got for about a quarter of what it's worth. But it's a gorgeous train set, and it starts with this really nice steam locomotive. I'm not a steam guy myself, but I do love just the mechanical engineering, both of the real thing and the toy. So I appreciate the human ingenuity and work that went into steam engines, even if they're not my favorite train. But I got guilted into having a steam locomotive. So this was the first one, but unfortunately I turned right around and found this one, which was also a steal. I paid about a third of what it's worth. And this is my Bavarian Wrangel. This is also a class 18. I think this one's an 18.3 or 18.4. I should have looked it up before I decided to film this. But this is an 18.5, 18.527, and this is 18.3 or 18.4. Somebody will correct me down below. And then the oldest locomotive in my possession, although one of the newer locomotives in my collection, is this, a Prussian P8 locomotive, which we got to go with these cars we picked up at a show in Cleveland. But that is my Prussian P8. And this is, I think this is from the 1980s. So it is the oldest locomotive in my collection, except for one, which I did not put in any of the videos. I guess I should. But this one has only lights. That's it. It's only function. But boy, is it a hard runner. It's an old school motor, old school design. So it doesn't have all the fanciest setup like this newer guy. Because this model here is actually from 2003. This is from the 1980s. When Roco was still really working on quality but starting to struggle financially. Or Roco, when Märklin, because these are all Märklins here. But those are my steam locomotives except for one. Is my Class 01 Christmas locomotive. I rarely run this on my layout except when I do a Christmas special and run all my steam locomotives on the layout. But otherwise, this tends to get run around my Christmas tree. So I bring it down from the Christmas tree and run it on my layout for a Christmas special. But this is a Class 01. It is an, they make an 01 that doesn't have the Christmas stuff on it. That's identical. It just doesn't have the Christmas tree stuck on the front and the little snow decorations on it. But it was actually the first steamer I ever bought. Joyce decided she was tired of the big plasticky G-scale and O-scale $50 kits that ran around. She wanted a real train locomotive. So she said, does Märklin have a Christmas train? And well, they had just released this one 2 years earlier, and our shop had them in stock. So there's this guy. My last steam locomotive is this guy. This is Emma. So I say guy. I should say girl. Is this girl, Emma. Emma runs on HO track, but is not HO scale. It is not any scale. It is a fictitious scale because it is a fictitious loco. This is from a movie, a 2016 movie, based on a 1950s children's book called Jim Button and Lucas the Locomotive Driver. And there are actually little models of Jim Button in there. Jim Button is a young boy who realizes he was adopted and wants to know where his family came from. But he lives on this little island that only has, like, I think it's 7 people who live on it. And he kind of, his pseudo-father is Lucas, the guy who drives the locomotive. But Emma is the train. And I had this running in my classroom the last 3-4 years because I'd show my students the movie and they loved it. It was cute. It's a silly little movie. But they liked it. And so I would have this train running around in the classroom, and they loved to see it going and run it, playing around. I had an ICE-1 and this guy in my classroom, and they just like to see these guys running.
Okay, to finish this video off,
I can't forget my 00 UK stuff that is consigned to running on the floor, since everything on my table is 3-rail. And no, I'm not going to convert one line to 2-rail just to appease things. Anyhow, we'll start off with right here. This is my LNER Celebrating Scotland Azuma Class 800 high-speed train. Joyce and I actually rode this exact train from Edinburgh to Yorktown. So that was quite fun. We rode another Azuma Class 800 from Yorktown to London. So that's, and it's the best of my UK trains. All right, behind it we have a Class 73 diesel locomotive from a set called the Beatles Singles from Liverpool. And it came with 2 cars, and then a late friend of mine gave me 2 more cars to complete the set on both sides. And it's a good runner. It's just a very basic, these are all analog, by the way. None of these are digital, although this one is DCC ready. It's currently running in analog form. This has nothing, not even lights. There's not even the potential for lights unless you drilled them out and custom installed them. All right, the first UK locomotive I bought is right behind there. This is the Beatles Yellow Submarine Eurostar, and yes, I've got it in pieces because I don't have a good place to store it yet, so I've got it sitting on some track here. That's the Beatles Yellow Submarine Eurostar, and behind it you can see some box cars with the Beatle albums on them, because yeah, I'm a Beatles fan, and that got me going because only Hornby made some Beatles stuff. And then lastly, right over here, we have the famous, maybe the most famous steamer in the world, the Mallard, the one that set the speed record for steam in its day. That is the Mallard. I love this locomotive, but I don't like this model. When I can get it running, it runs well, but it is very flimsy, very touchy. It is from their lower end range of models, but it still could have been made better. But I've got it, and that's what matters. So that is my UK 00 collection, which I started about 2 years ago when I got this one, because I stupidly thought, hey, I've been able to convert German trains to 3-rail, maybe I can convert this to 3-rail. And no, there's no converting this to 3-rail. I don't know if this one could be converted to 3-rail. It has more potential for it. But be that as it may, that is the UK collection.
Last but not least, the final member of my fleet is this little rail bus that I was gifted by Horst in Bamberg. Just a little beautiful piece, probably from the early 1970s based on the box. Actually, there is a way on the box you can tell, but I forget if it's that number or if it's that one. One of those 2 numbers say the year it was built, so 69 or 61. So maybe it was January of 61. But, so yeah. But I didn't think the blue boxes came in till later. But I believe that is how you tell on the old boxes the year it was built. So it was either 69 or 61. Either way, it's a 60-plus year old beauty, this little rail bus. And that's my fleet.
All right, so there is a look at my current state of affairs with my powered cars and locomotives, multiple units and such. I hope you kind of enjoyed a quick, and even though this is a long video, a quick look-see at what I have. Hopefully some of you will show yours, because I'd like to see. So until I see you somewhere along the line, I will say Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains. Take care, everybody.